Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling what, let's be honest, some folks might call the driest topic in IT, operational procedures. But we're totally reframing it today, because this is exactly what it is, your high-stakes, real-world survival guide. Whether you're grinding through your CompTIA A+ Core 2 prep, or you're stepping onto the help desk for the very first time, this is the essential knowledge that keeps systems running smoothly and, quite frankly, keeps you out of trouble.
I want you to think about this for just a second. What is the actual difference between a tech who seamlessly fixes a problem and one who accidentally causes an absolute disaster? It really isn't just about knowing your way around a command line or how to swap out a motherboard. Technical skills fix computers, for sure, but proper procedures, those everyday rules and habits we follow, those are what save jobs, save businesses, and in some cases, even save lives.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We're going to break this survival guide down into 5 crucial categories today. We've got safety and core procedures, power events and protection, essential IT documentation, mastering change management, and wrapping up with soft skills and critical thinking.
All right, starting off with part 1, safety and core procedures. The ultimate goal here is to protect people first.
If you take away just one ultimate rule from this explainer today, make it this: stop, assess the risk, and protect people first. Equipment, that can be replaced. People, obviously cannot. Really, good operational procedures stand on 4 main pillars. First is people, meaning your personal safety and the safety of everyone around you. Second is equipment, which is handling hardware properly and keeping it far away from hazards. Third is data, so securing files, making sure everything is backed up. And fourth is business operations, ensuring the company can actually keep its doors open. The vast majority of IT mistakes happen simply because a technician got in a hurry and decided to skip a step in one of these 4 areas.
Let's look at a real-world example of how a sort of rogue, improvised response compares to a professional one. Imagine you come across a laptop with a badly swollen battery. A classic rookie mistake is pressing on it, poking it, or just tossing it into a standard trash bin. No way! That is a massive fire hazard. The safe, professional response? You stop using it immediately, you absolutely do not puncture it, and you follow your local electronic waste and battery disposal procedures to the letter. When safety's on the line, you never improvise.
Moving right along to Section 2, Power Events and Protection. Let's talk about those invisible IT threats.
So, shifting from physical hazards to the invisible ones, what's really interesting here is how we can map electrical fluctuations right onto a voltage timeline to actually visualize the danger. You can see overvoltage conditions, like a quick spike from a lightning strike or a much longer surge from utility switching. Then on the flip side, you have undervoltage conditions. This could be a brief sag, a longer brownout, or a complete blackout where your voltage literally drops to 0. We also have to watch out for line noise, which is basically just electrical interference. Understanding these specific events is absolutely crucial because, spoiler alert, no single protection device guards against all of them.
So naturally, you've got to match your protective gear to the actual risk. A standard power strip, that really just gives you more outlets. It offers 0 actual protection. Now, a surge protector will divert excess voltage, which is great for guarding against spikes and surges, but it is not going to keep your PC running during a blackout. A line conditioner is awesome for smoothing out voltage and filtering that line noise we just talked about. But for total protection, including a battery backup so you can safely shut down during a blackout, you need a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. And keep in mind the difference between a UPS and an SPS, or standby power supply. An SPS actually has a brief little delay before the battery kicks in. Oh, and here is a massive real-world and exam survival tip for you. Never, ever plug a laser printer into a UPS. The huge power draw when a laser printer heats up will overload and completely destroy that UPS unit. Just don't do it.
All right, Section 3, Essential IT Documentation. This is literally your best defense.
I know, paperwork sounds like a total chore. But in IT, documentation is your perfect alibi, it's your best defense, and honestly, it's your primary troubleshooting tool. Take the absolute cornerstone of IT accountability, the professional help desk ticket. It tracks a problem from the initial report all the way to resolution. Notice how a good one clearly lists the user and the device. It details the exact symptom, outlines the specific troubleshooting steps taken, like say checking Task Manager and running updates, and then it clearly states the resolution and the follow-up. Doing this takes all the guesswork out of the equation for the next technician who might have to look at this same computer.
To really drive this point home, just look at the stark contrast here. A weak ticket note simply says, "Fixed it." Well, that tells your team absolutely nothing. What was the actual issue? How did you fix it? A much better ticket note details exactly what was reported, what you tested,
what the results were, and the confirmed resolution. Oh, and a highly critical warning here. Never, under any circumstances, put passwords, private medical details, or any sensitive personal data into a ticket.
Now, beyond just trouble tickets, your paper trail includes a few other crucial documents that help keep work consistent across a whole team. You've got standard operating procedures, or SOPs, outlining approved steps for repeatable tasks, incident reports for tracking safety or security events, asset records to keep tabs on equipment ownership and warranty status, knowledge base articles, which are amazing for sharing reusable fixes across the team, SLAs, or service level agreements, which define your expected response times, and you definitely can't forget those new and exiting user checklists to ensure totally secure onboarding and offboarding.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, Mastering Change Management. It's all about controlling system changes.
In IT, we are dealing with the butterfly effect pretty much every single day. One tiny, seemingly harmless, unapproved driver update on a server? Yeah, that can take down an entire company's network. So to stop uncontrolled changes from creating massive outages, we rely on a structured change management process. It forces us to think through the risks before we touch a working system.
So, translating that flowchart into actionable steps, here's how it plays out. First, you get a request, and you assess its impact, basically asking what could break. Then, you get official approval. Next, and this is arguably the most critical step of the whole process, you create a backup and a rollback plan. If your change absolutely destroys the system, exactly how are you going to put it back the way it was? Only after that do you implement the change, verify that it actually worked, and document the results. Seriously, skipping the rollback plan is how you turn a simple 10-minute fix into a 3-day disaster.
When you're actually scheduling these changes, you absolutely must know the difference between two frequently confused terms. A change freeze is a period when strictly no changes are allowed. Think of a university blocking all network updates during final exam week, just to guarantee stability. A maintenance window, on the other hand, is a pre-scheduled block of time, say Sunday at 2 a.m., when planned approved changes are actually allowed to take place.
And the changes themselves generally fall into 3 distinct buckets. Standard changes are your low-risk, routine, and usually pre-approved updates, like a normal software patch. Normal changes are more significant and planned out, like migrating everything to a brand new server. And then you have emergency changes. These are unplanned, immediate responses to a catastrophic failure or maybe a security breach where you literally just don't have the time to wait around for the next scheduled change board meeting.
Finally, Section 5, Soft Skills and Critical Thinking. Let's talk about fixing the user experience.
Look, you can be an absolute genius with hardware, but fixing the user is honestly just as important as fixing the machine. If you're rude, unclear, or just careless, the whole support experience is a failure. Let's move to the technician communication loop and see how this builds trust instead of increasing frustration, especially when a user is stressed out. You start by actively listening to the issue. You clarify by asking good questions before just assuming you know the cause. You explain the fix in plain, non-jargon language. You document the work, and you follow up to make sure they're actually satisfied. Good communication equals happy users and successful solutions. To actually execute that loop smoothly, you need some core soft skills. We're talking active listening and professional language. It also means keeping user data strictly confidential, so definitely no discussing help desk tickets on social media. It means proper escalation too, which is just knowing when to admit a problem is above your pay grade and asking for help. And hey, here's a pro tip straight from the source material. Never tell an upset user to calm down. It feels super dismissive, and honestly, it almost always makes them angrier. Just acknowledge their frustration and pivot your focus right to the solution.
And finally, we tie this whole shebang together with critical thinking. This checklist is essentially your ultimate safety net. Before you act, quickly check off these steps. Is it safe? What is the evidence? Do I have permission? Is there a backup? What is my action plan? Did I verify it? And did I document it? Critical thinking is what separates the symptoms from the actual causes, because you're testing one thing at a time safely rather than just blindly guessing.
So, what does this all mean? The crucial point is this. The technically fastest action isn't always the best professional action. As you step out into the IT field, I want you to ask yourself this question every single time you approach a ticket. Are you just fixing a symptom, or are you actively using your procedures, your safety protocols, and your critical thinking to fix the underlying cause? Keep this survival guide in your back pocket, protect your people and your data, and I will catch you in the next explainer.